Well, good morning, everyone. It's Thursday, September 14th at about 8:10 in the morning, and I'm just out doing my morning dog walk, starting off here with Luna, and then we'll pick up Zoe halfway along. She likes to sleep in a bit. So we're just gonna go north through the property, up around the sand pit, into the woods, and back down here, and then around our horse field. All in all, it's about a 3.7 kilometer walk, and we do it every morning, sometimes twice a day. And it's just a nice way to start the day, get the legs moving, get the lungs going. Dogs get their business done, and I do some bird watching along the way. Well, when I got up this morning, it was only 11 degrees. I'm not sure what it is right now, maybe 13 or so, but hasn't really gone up that much. And it's cloudy and virtually no wind, so it's actually quite pleasant out, but just quite a cool morning. I've got to get my pruning shears out here and clear some of these branches off of the trail. You have to do that every so often. The branches just keep growing out, and before long they're hitting you in the head. So you have to keep pruning every couple years or so at least. Well, the leaves on the trees are certainly starting to change, getting that yellowish tinge to them. I have even noted some red maples changing to quite a red color already, especially when they're in swamp areas. Luna's sitting beside one of my trail cameras here on the tree. I should come out and collect the cards from these cameras pretty soon. They've been out for a couple weeks now. Well, so far on this hike, the birds have been very quiet, very quiet. Oh, there's been the standard blue jays screaming and crows and nuthatches, but not much else. Here we've got some nice red-stemmed aster in bloom, and you can probably see that it does have a reddish, darkish brown reddish stem. Beautiful, large, 1.5-inch diameter purple mauve flowers. Nice big head of them. And this is a aster of wetlands or wetland edges, often found in wet ditches like it's growing here. The Latin name is Aster puniceus, and it's certainly one of my favorite asters. Very pretty, late summer, early fall plant. Tall, we're over 6 feet tall here. Yeah, there's something really special about getting out each morning for these walks. Get your body moving and it just makes you feel better for the rest of the day for the most part. I find it really important to do this, not only for myself, of course, but for these guys. Hey, oh. For most of the spring and early summer out in this area, there was a winter wren singing his heart out every morning when I came through here. It's thought to be one of the fastest and most note-filled songs of any bird for a given space of time. So it may sing for like 20 seconds or so in a burst and then repeat that over and over and over again when they're trying to find mates. And they love these damp forest areas where there's lots of deadfall and moss on the ground. And this area here is actually bordering a wetter, swampy area of our forest in there further. So they like that moisture with lots of ferns and fallen logs and lots of debris on the ground. That's what the winter wren's like. And as the summer went on, I was concerned that he may not find a mate. He kept singing all summer, but later on, I heard at least 2 birds over in this section, and it sounded like young birds with them as well. So hopefully he was successful in finding a mate, breeding and having young. And hopefully they'll be back again next year. Most years we do have them out here, so they seem to like this place. Here's another one of the many trees that have collapsed across the trail. This one still allows you to walk underneath it, and it's a bit of a dicey situation anyhow, so I'm just gonna leave it until it fully collapses on its own. This is one of the area where water often lays on the trail, even into the late summer. And as you can see here, it's quite muddy. There was actually water here up until a week or 2 ago with the decent rains we got most of the summer, but now we've had about 3 weeks without rain, so it has dried up largely. Here comes another one of my trail cameras. Can you spot it? Here's an example of one of the things that always amazes me about nature, just how species and individual plants and animals can adapt to their environment. Here we have a yellow birch growing right out of a couple granite boulders, roots coming across the top of the boulders and then going down in between them. And yet you can plant a tree on your lawn with the utmost of care, amend the soil, make it the best soil you can think of, and in a year that tree dies. And yet somehow out here, the wild trees survive in what seems like the harshest of conditions. Well, we're all familiar with Diagon Alley in Harry Potter. So now I would like to welcome you to Migration Alley. There's an interesting story behind the purchase of this property, which I don't think I've shared with viewers in the past. Basically, over 22 years ago, when we first came to see the property, we really liked it and we didn't know what to do. The cost was quite expensive. And it was just a single large property at that point. There was no houses on it, just the property itself. 145 acres roughly. And in the end, we did put an offer in on it because we really liked it. We didn't go as high as the asking price. And so some time went by and we were wondering whether we should have offered more. And then in the end, I came to learn that another fellow had put in a bid for the full asking price, but luckily for us, in the end, he backed out. And we were next in line, and just the way it worked out, we basically had to offer the full asking price if we wanted to get it, because there was a number of people lined up behind us too, interested in it. So I meant to add too, with that little story about the property, that the reason we looked at this at all was because Diane's sister, who lives over in this area, found out about the property for sale, and she let us know about it. So I can't leave that point out. Luna must smell a coyote. So here's what I call our new pond, and you can see that the water level has gone down significantly. A month or two ago, the water would have been right up into that green zone where the grasses and sedges are. So yeah, much of the sand pit looked like this when we first arrived here 22 years ago. And since then, it's gradually been revegetating itself to the splendor that we see out here now. So you could see all through that when we came. It was all just bare sand for the most part. There were some scattered trees, but most of the shrubs and the low vegetation that you see out here now was not here. So I'm going to be doing a video shortly about my native grass planting up here at the side of the pit. And behind me here we have a nice example of one of these native grasses. So we've done the north end of the property. Now we're going to go around the south end of the fields, and we're going to pick up Zoe. She likes to sleep in for the first part now. She always used to go the whole route, but now she seems to like the southern part after she sleeps in till 8 or 9 o'clock or whatever time it is. Okay, get ready everybody. I'm gonna let Zoe out. If she's down here in the basement, she'll come out very quickly. She might take a few seconds if she's upstairs. Manzo. Manzo. Here she comes. This way. Here comes Piper and Colby. They're enjoying the nice cool air without all the bugs on them. Hi Piper, how are you? And she likes to say hello to Luna. They have a few good face-offs every morning usually. And there's Colby. How are you doing, bud? Boy, the sky this morning certainly has that leaden look of fall about it. And the air feels like fall as well. Here's the fence destroyer, Piper, once again at it. Here's a strange little story for you. Last week we had a few nights where we watched a show off YouTube. It was about haunted castles and ghosts in Britain and across the UK. And it's quite interesting. They profiled a number of castles and other places where ghosts and different stories have been going on for years and years. And it was very well done, anyhow. Having worked in the science field for much of my life, I think I have a fairly analytical and inquiring mind. And I haven't really put a lot of stock in ghost stories and things like that, although I find them entertaining, probably as much as anybody does. And I certainly don't put it out of the question. I like to leave open the possibility that there could be spirits of the afterlife that we don't really understand, and that there may be times when people can actually witness these spirits. Anyhow, as fate would have it, a couple days after that, I was driving back from having walked the dogs over near Sydenham Lake. And I was just coming along this side road, obviously not thinking anything about that show at all. And I was just coming by a series of driveways that were coming out onto the side road. And at one point, this old German Shepherd came walking out of the driveway in one of these places. And he looked like he was just going to keep coming out onto the road, so I slammed on the brakes, and he did, came walking out right in front of me, very tired looking and sort of weak, quite an old dog, obviously. Anyhow, he walked right out in front of my car, and then he walked up the side, and at that point I was just barely moving. He walked up the side and looked at me from the side of the road. I was just staring down at him from my driver's seat. And then I felt comfortable that he had gone behind me, so I moved ahead. And then I looked in my rear view mirrors on both sides of the car, as well as the main rear view mirror, shortly after I moved ahead of him. And I didn't see any sign of the dog anywhere. And I thought that was very strange, because he didn't look like he was in a state where he could move really quickly to get off the road or anything. And yet just in a few seconds that it took me to roll ahead of him a bit and then look in the mirrors, and I couldn't see him anywhere. And at that time I did remember that in that show that we watched, there were a number of cases where different animals apparently appear as spirits as well, and there were even stories associated with them in the past. So that was interesting. And it's just one of those cases that I couldn't quite explain. Now, obviously, the main explanation is that it did get off the road without me seeing it. And that's possible, but he sure moved quickly, and he didn't look like he was a quick-moving dog at that point. So perhaps I saw a ghost dog. And then the mind started wandering. I thought, well, maybe at one point he had come out on the road and gotten killed by a car, and this was now his spirit coming back every so often to wander the site of his demise. Anyhow, it's just after 10 o'clock now, and we're basically finished our walk. We're just coming up to the house. Hope you enjoyed that walk around the property and are looking forward to an exciting day. Catch you later.